start the recording. Yep. So welcome everybody to the April Crescendo Connect. April 30th, we got it in just in time. My name is Lisa Griebel and I am the president of Crescendo Inc. I am so excited to see so many EI practitioners on the call. It's just fantastic to see your faces and know that you're interested in this particular topic. So the purpose of our Crescendo Connect Conversations is to provide you with an opportunity to learn more about how our EI practitioners are building emotional intelligence into their practices. And so that said, it's my pleasure today to welcome Jill Saunders as our guest speaker. I've invited Jill to share her experience with the HeartMath science and tools, and to further explore the connection of those things to emotional intelligence. So as you listen to her presentation today, I am also going to invite you to reflect on situations during your stay-at-home time that that might have had a different outcome for you by applying the HeartMath tools and science, or maybe give some thought as to how you might be able to weave some of the HeartMath information into your own practices. So with that as a backdrop, I am honored to welcome and introduce Jill Saunders, who is a friend. She is a neighbor and a colleague and truly one of the most creative people that I know, as our guest speaker today. Jill is a mom, leadership development professional. She's a creative. She's a yogi, a coach, and a spiritual entrepreneur. So for more than 20 years, she's worked for Fortune 200 companies, coaching leaders and facilitating workshops to help leaders be the best that they can be. Jill has her coaching certification from the Hudson Institute of Santa Barbara and has completed the coursework at the Coaches Technology Institute. And she's also, of course, certified in as a HeartMath coach. Jill loves to help people create love-filled, dream-inspired, resilient lives. She lives in Minneapolis with her son, Tyler. Please join me in welcoming Jill Saunders as today's Crescendo Connect presenter. Jill?
All right. Well, thanks so much, Lisa. It's always kind of interesting to hear your bio read back and hear everything about yourself. So hello, everyone. So good to be with you, and I'm just really looking forward to sharing a topic that has been with me for about 20 years now. I love the work from HeartMath, and I'm grateful for this opportunity to share, and hoping this morning that I can share some science and tools that will help you to be resilient during these times that we're in. So I'm gonna advance the slide here. That has happened a couple times when I try to advance it. It's clicked out, but here we go. All right, here's our conversation for today's session. What I'd like to do is to have us start off with an exercise to help us take stock on what's working in our life right now, what's giving us joy and fulfillment, and what some potential deficits may be, what's draining us, what's causing us to feel triggered, to have our stress responses go off. And then we'll take what we learn from that and we'll apply some science to it. And we'll get underneath some of the HeartMath science, what happens when we're triggered by stress, And then we'll spend some time on a couple of HeartMath tools that you can put into practice just right after this call to help you stay centered, work from the heart, and start to build your resiliency. And my plan is to be done with this. So we've got plenty of time for questions. So as Lisa said, please do take note of any questions you have. All right, well, let's talk a little bit about the heart. Let's talk about the heart a little bit. So, the heart is just this beautiful part of us, right? So, the heart kind of has a spiritual or kind of mystical connotation to it. I like this quote here. And now here is my secret, a very simple secret. It is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye. So we think about phrases like listen to your heart, pay attention to your heart. We see the heart as a source of wisdom and knowledge. And then the heart also has this, such an important physical job, right? So a few statistics here. The heart beats 100,000 times a day, 40 million times a year. Not sure why that advanced there. Let me go back. Lisa, would you happen to be clicking on your end or?
Not on the slides.
Yeah, I'm not sure why it's moving ahead. Okay, so it beats 40 million times a year, pumps 2 gallons of blood per minute through our system, and it actually starts beating in the unborn fetus before the brain is formed. So we know of the heart as kind of a spiritual source of guidance and wisdom, and then also this physical pump that takes care of us and sustains us through the day. So let's explore a little bit about how our heart helps to support us to build resiliency. And I'd like to do an exercise with you called an assets and deficits exercise. And if you could, on a sheet of paper, if you could create this T-chart, on one side having assets, on the other side giving it the heading of deficits. And in the assets column, what I'd like you to do is to take stock on what's really working in your life right now. What is it that's giving you joy, that's causing you to feel fulfillment, that gives you peace? Maybe there's something that you just have a really simple appreciation of. Nature. Is there a special person that just lights your life up? So what are those assets? What's really working in your life right now? And then also take a look at some deficits. And we could call these kind of like your stress triggers. What are these things that are a drain on you right now? What is it that's causing you to feel stress, to feel less than resilient, things that might be causing you worry or fear or anxiety? So take stock on what's going right with the assets and also what's draining your energy over in the deficit column. So I'll give you a minute or so to complete this T-chart of assets and deficits. So this assets and deficits exercise is a HeartMath tool, and it's really designed to help you take kind of a snapshot of a moment in time to get really clear on what is it that's working, and then also real importantly to get clear on what those energy drains are. What is it that may be causing you stress or anxiety or worry or fear? So we take a snapshot of this moment in time. And then we're going to kind of build on this a little bit. you know what happens with those deficits is that they oftentimes are stress triggers. So we'll be going through our day and something can kind of come at us, right? It's a conversation, a phone call, a situation that just kind of has an impact on us, that kind of triggers us in a way. And what can happen if we don't manage it appropriately is it can cause kind of our stress physiology to take off. And what happens when our stress physiology takes off is a cascade of events in our body. So over 1,400 biochemical changes start to occur. And that stress hormone cortisol gets released. I don't know about you, but me, when that cortisol starts to, pump through my body, my shoulders get tense, my body gets a little rigid, and I know that my stress physiology has kind of taken off. We'll also see that our nervous system gets overloaded when we're under stress. Our mental performance can suffer, and over a period of time, our resilience starts to deplete. So we may suffer from sleep, we may start to feel fatigue, and the bottom line here is that we're not our best selves. We're not our best selves. So what's important with that assets and deficits column is to be able to take a snapshot of a moment in time and see what are those stressors that are coming at you that could be triggering this stress physiology. So we want to raise our awareness. This is a slide I think that each of us can really relate to right now in this moment in time that we're in. And this comes from a study from HeartMath that talks about over a period of time what happens to our performance when we're faced with stress. So on the bottom here, we've got days. So over 10 days, 20 days, 30 days, 40 days. And then the curve represents our performance level. So what this chart illustrates is that when we're faced with stress over a period of time, we first rise to the occasion, and we have enough resiliency to really meet the stress that's coming at us, right? So we rise to the occasion, we've got the energy, we were able to sustain or even increase performance. But when we reach about 20 days or 30 days, that performance level tends to decrease, right? And it could be that we move into kind of a hyper-reactive stage of performance, and then even emotional exhaustion. So when you think about these times that we're in right now, we're definitely 20, 30 days into it. And it could be that we're in that kind of downward curve on the performance level. So think about HeartMath and think about these tools that I'm going to share with you today as a way to sustain that performance level, as a way, so instead of going on that downward curve, how do we continue to improve our performance and maintain resilience and sustain that performance level? So we call this the performance curve. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the science of HeartMath and what happens when we're faced with those assets and deficits in our life. And if there's any slide that I'd really like you just to kind of take away as a visual from our session today, it's this slide here. And what this slide is measuring is it's called heart rate variability. And what HeartMath has studied is that the heart, that actual physical heart inside of us, with every heartbeat sends out a signal to our autonomic nervous system that says either we're stressed, There's trouble. I have anxiety. I have concern. So if you're feeling any of these feelings, any of these emotions of frustration, the heart actually sends out this signal throughout your autonomic nervous system that says, we're in trouble. Things aren't going well here. I'm experiencing stress. And then what happens, and what we're going to talk about in greater detail in the next couple of slides, is that it sends a signal up to your brain that says we're incoherent, right? We're incoherent. We're not operating at optimal performance. So if you're living in your deficit column, any of those things that are causing you stress, it's likely that the signal that your heart is sending out through your autonomic nervous system to your body is one of frustration, is one of anxiety or concern. But here's what's beautiful, is that you can make, and this is what the HeartMath tools help you to do, you can make a conscious shift from this incoherent wave at the top to a really coherent wave, that picture at the bottom, by sending out a signal from your heart of love, gratitude, joy, appreciation, peace. So you can intentionally shift that signal that your heart is sending out into a beautiful, coherent wave that cascades through your autonomic nervous system and actually cascades up to your brain, to the higher regions of your brain, and sends a signal that says, we're coherent, we're doing well, we're thinking creatively, we're problem solving, we're communicating well. So what I'd like you to take away is that your heart sends a signal out with every heartbeat. And if you're living in that deficits column, it's probably sending a signal out of frustration or incoherence. And if you're living in that assets column, it's sending a signal out of appreciation. And then at a point in time, I'm going to teach you a couple of tools that will help you to shift from that incoherent signal to a coherent signal, to that picture of coherence. HeartMath has done quite a bit of research and has kind of scanned the environment for research about what happens when we feel positive emotions. And there's quite a bit of work out there. Positive emotions impact our longevity, cognitive flexibility. It helps us to improve our decision making, has an impact on memory, improves our job performance and achievement, and also has an impact on problem solving and creativity. So if we can begin to intentionally practice sending out that positive emotion, there is just a ripple effect of things that can happen in our system as a result of that. Let's talk a little bit about this heart-brain connection. So the heart has recently been studied to show that the heart has its own nervous system. It has a complex nervous system, and HeartMath refers to it as the heart-brain. And what they have found is that the heart actually sends far more information to the brain than the brain actually sends to the heart. So our heart here sends signals that affect our brain center and affects things like strategic thinking, reaction timing, and self-regulation. So I want you to know that your heart has this intelligent nervous system that is always sending a signal up to your brain. So you want to really pay attention to that emotion that you're holding in your heart, because you want that signal that's being sent to your brain to be a coherent signal, a signal that says we're working. We can think at our higher regions of our brain. This is, I think, kind of a great picture too. Off to the left here, it shows that when we have an incoherent signal, the heart sends the signal up to the brain, but it only gets as far as the amygdala. And the amygdala is our emotional center of the brain. And then the amygdala, if it's a wave of frustration, the amygdala takes over and it hijacks us from thinking clearly. If you look off to the right here, you'll see the coherent signal. And when we have a coherent signal, it actually bypasses the amygdala and gets us into those higher thinking regions of the brain that impacts our decision making, social awareness, our ability to self-regulate. So know that your heart is sending the signal to your brain at all times. If it's a wave of frustration, we get hijacked at the amygdala and we can't think as clearly. If it's a coherent wave, we can get to those higher regions of our brain where we think creatively, where we problem solve, where we collaborate with people with greater ease and efficiency. So our goal here is to create a system of coherence in our body. We really want to create coherence, and what coherence is, it's an optimal state in which the heart and the brain are really operating in sync with each other and they're balanced. So if we're sending out a coherent signal from our heart, that really facilitates this brain coherence. So here's a slide that I think is kind of cool for us to be aware of during these times too. And this is a slide that tracks what happens to IgA in our system when we're faced with care or when we're faced with anger. And IgA is the first level of immunity in our system. It's actually measured through our saliva. And what it shows here is that when we're faced with anger, the IgA concentration initially increases and then it drops off. And you'll see here over a period of 6 hours, it still hasn't returned to the baseline level. But you'll see here from this slide that if we feel a feeling of care or appreciation or gratitude, the IgA actually swings up in a positive way. So I think it's just something for us to be aware of during these times. If we're feeling stress, if we're feeling worry, anxiety, fear, anger, it's likely that our immunity is dropping off, right? And it's taking a while for that immunity to rebuild. So just something we want to be aware of. All right, let's get into a couple of tools here that will help you to make that shift in your heart from any incoherence or frustration to a feeling of appreciation, joy, and gratitude. So this first tool here is called heart-focused breathing. And what I'd like you to do is just to follow these instructions that I'm giving to you and take a moment to experience some heart-focused breathing. So what I'd like you to do is just to take a moment to get comfortable in your chair. You may want to put your feet on the ground and just kind of get grounded here. And I think that this works best when you close your eyes, just to help focus your attention. But also just make note that there's oftentimes during meetings or conversations where it's not appropriate, to be closing your eyes. But for our purpose today, go ahead and close your eyes. And what I'd like you to do is to focus your attention in the area around your heart. So just focus your attention in the area around your heart. And I'd like you to imagine your breath flowing in and out of your heart or chest area. So just breathe a little slower and deeper than usual. So focus your attention in the area around your heart. Imagine yourself just breathing in and out of your heart area. Breathing a little slower and deeper than usual. And what you're doing with this intentional breathing through your heart area is you're making a shift from any signal of incoherence or frustration to a coherent, smooth, beautiful wave. All right, so that's our first tool, our first exercise here called heart-focused breathing. So you can practice this exercise at any time. If you're in a team meeting, if you're in a difficult conversation, if you get triggered from something that's happening around your home, just notice that deficit or that trigger coming on. And it's about the practice of shifting to your heart and practicing just that breathing through your heart area. And oftentimes I put my hand over my heart to really help hold the focus there. So that's heart-focused breathing. And here is, I think this is a kind of a really kind of cool quality that HeartMath has. HeartMath is a big believer in the science behind all of this. And they actually have a device where you can measure what that signal is that your heart is sending out. So the way that works, I'm not sure if you can see my picture, but we've got this device called an EM wave, and you clip it onto your ear, and that signal then picks up, that sensor picks up your heart rate variability, and then you turn on an app on your phone which picks up that signal, and you start to get a readout on what's that signal that your heart is sending out. So you can see in this picture, this is just a snapshot of what is displayed on the phone app. You can see across the top here the level of coherence. You can see that the graph at the bottom there is the heart rate variability signal. And it's just really cool if you want to get some immediate feedback on what the signal is that your heart is sending out. You just click that little device on your ear, turn the app on your phone, and you get some immediate feedback to see what's going on. And here's what's really cool is that heart-focused breathing that we just did, if you practice that heart-focused breathing, you'll see that signal that your heart is sending out just shifts real nicely into a coherent signal. So it gives you some immediate feedback that breathing that you're doing is really having an impact. So let's take a look at another tool, and this second tool is called quick coherence. And what we do with quick coherence is we do the heart-focused breathing like we did before, and then we add onto it a feeling, a regenerative feeling like appreciation or care. And what that does is it really just kind of amps up that signal that your heart is sending out into a more coherent signal, and it begins to build that resiliency in your system so that when stress triggers start to come at you, your resiliency is built up and you don't kind of jump into your stress physiology and have that cascade of stress events happen in your system. So I'd love it if we could just spend a few moments this morning to practice this quick coherence technique too. So it's a two-step process. And I'm going to have you close your eyes again because it just helps to focus our attention. And just kind of get comfortable in your chair. And what I'd like you to do is to focus your attention in the area of your heart. You may want to put your hand over your heart to help hold the attention there. And then just imagine your breath is flowing in and out of your heart or chest area. Just breathe a little slower and deeper as you focus your attention in the area around your heart. Now, the second step here is to make a sincere attempt to experience a regenerative feeling, such as appreciation or care for someone or something in your life. So just take a moment to feel a feeling of appreciation or care for someone you love. Maybe it's a feeling of something you're really grateful for or appreciative for. It could be anything from your assets column. Like, what's really working that you're appreciative and grateful of? And just feel that feeling. All right, so know what you've done here is, again, you've helped to shift that signal that your heart is sending out into a really coherent wave. You've taken some intentional steps to shift and alter your physiology. And then what you do over a period of time, if you can, when that stress trigger is coming at you, when that deficit is coming at you, instead of spiraling down into that stress physiology, what you're doing is you're being really buoyant, right? You're being really resilient in the moment, and you're calling on that resiliency that you've built up to say, you know what, I'm not going to take that spiral down. I'm not going to let this wipe me out. So that's the second tool, called quick coherence. So we've got two simple tools: the focused heart breathing, and then the quick coherence, which uses the heart focused breathing plus adding a feeling to it. I'll just kind of share a quick story. I noticed that when I hook up to the EM Wave device and I take a look at the app on my phone, it's really interesting to me sometimes when I try to feel that feeling of love or gratitude or appreciation, that sometimes I'll think of someone and it doesn't really shift the signal that my heart is sending out. So I just want to call out that there can be times when you have a feeling of appreciation that's really strong and you can really feel it and get into it. And maybe sometimes it doesn't work as well. So when you notice that, just try something else. Try something else that would support that feeling of gratitude and love and appreciation. So as Lisa and I were talking about the HeartMath tools and how HeartMath connects to emotional intelligence, we just really thought that the HeartMath tools support that whole emotional self-awareness. So as you go through your day, you know, the practice is to build up your assets, to build up what you're grateful and appreciative for, and to manage your deficits. Just to manage your deficits and try to not let them take you through that stress physiology cycle. So you need to have a level of self-awareness and able to do that, right? So you're always kind of noticing how are things coming at you. We also thought that as you spend more time in your heart, right? And let's say you're in a difficult conversation and you choose to practice some heart-focused breathing instead of acting from your amygdala and from that emotional center, you're probably going to demonstrate greater levels of empathy and social responsibility.
Right.
Your heart is going to give you just kind of a wide open perspective to be able to understand somebody else. You know, your heart has just so many greater capacities than your brain to appreciate and to really put yourself in somebody else's shoes. So that the heart certainly supports having greater empathy and social responsibility. So just a reminder to use this assets and deficits tool on a regular basis to help you to take stock, and then to implement those tools of heart-focused breathing and adding that feeling of love and gratitude and appreciation about something that is an asset of yours. And you'll see that signal that your heart is sending out just to be one that's coherent, right? And sending that coherent message to your brain for us to think creatively and to problem solve. And you know, what we know is that during these times, more than ever, we need to be thinking creatively. We need to be having collaborative conversations. We need to be problem solving, and we need to bypass these emotions, right, that may be causing us to operate less than our best selves. So use this tool at any time just to do a check-in to say, hey, what's going on with me in this moment? So when you see a stress trigger coming at you, when you notice that, put a tool into practice. They're super simple. And I think that's what's so beautiful about the HeartMath system is that they are simple tools that can have an immediate effect on your physiology and that signal that your heart is sending out. So stop that stress trigger and that stress physiology from taking off before it gets a hold on you. All right, so here's in closing here, just a couple of quotes from a book called The HeartMath Solution that I think are a couple of my favorites from this book. The first one here, I think is so beautiful. The heart's electromagnetic field is by far the most powerful produced by the body. It's approximately 5,000 times greater in strength than the field produced by the brain. So, you know, how cool is that? You know, we oftentimes think, oh, you know, I've got to solve this problem, right? And we focus on our mind. But what if when we really needed some creative insight, when we needed a new solution, you know, a greater perspective on how to approach a situation, what if we said, let's add some heart wisdom to it? And you drop down into your heart, spent some focused time to build that coherence in your heart and to build that partnership between the heart and the brain to get to a higher solution, a better solution for that problem that you're facing. So keep this in mind, that the heart is 5,000 times greater in strength than the field produced by the brain. And then this second quote here, the heart's field not only permeates every cell in the body, but also radiates outside of us. It can be measured 8 to 10 feet away with sensitive detectors called magnetometers. So think of that as your social distancing in your house or with those that you love and care for. People can feel your heart. People can feel that signal that you are sending out. So if you're in a conversation that's difficult or hard, if you can really call on that practice of focusing on your heart, making a gentle shift, that energy from your heart can actually be felt by those around you, So I'll wrap up with this quote from Mary Oliver. Keep room in your heart for the unimaginable. So especially in times like this, I think relying on a little more heart wisdom and heart guidance and heart coherence could really support us and help us get through these challenging times. So that's what I have for you today, folks. And I'm real curious about any questions that you may have, if there's anything that I can answer for you.
Well, thank you, Jill. This has really been wonderful. I've got a couple of just kind of observations or comments based on what you shared with us. And one has to do with the last slide that you shared, talking about the heart's, this field.
Yes.
That permeates every cell in our body, but also radiates outside of us. So this might explain one thing we always talk about with emotional intelligence, is that emotions are contagious. And that I think we've all probably had that experience walking into a meeting when we used to have face-to-face meetings, but going into a meeting and just feeling like something wasn't quite right, and trying to figure out what was going on. Are they talking about me, or it feels really negative, or it feels really positive. And so I really appreciate now it is the emotions that are attached to the heart that we can absorb that. But we also, I think what it says to me is that if I'm feeling uncomfortable in a meeting, I can go back to some of these tools and go to my heart and shift the mood or shift the feeling, which now I know can also have an impact on other people.
Most definitely. And I didn't talk about another HeartMath tool, but I think might be interesting to share, is that sometimes when we're in a really difficult situation, it's even hard for us to get to gratitude or appreciation or joy. Like that's hard to muster us to that emotion. And what HeartMath would suggest is that even if you can get to a place of just being neutral, right? So even if you can just get to a place where you're breathing through your heart area, that autonomic nervous system is going to pick up a different signal, and it's going to prevent you from being hijacked from your amygdala. So getting to a place that's neutral is even a lot better than hanging out in that anger or frustration. You're right on the mark, Lisa. We can pick this up. We do pick up the energy that is being sent.
And then there was just keeping that in mind, I'm also remembering, and this is way back when I was learning about emotional intelligence and the neuropsychology and the neuroscience of the brain. I remember reading how it is impossible to hold in our heart fear and gratitude at the same time.
That's beautiful.
And so that takes me back to the heart heart rate variability slide that you shared with us, showing the jagged edges when we're feeling frustration and anger and anxiety, and to just stop and take pause and breathe deep, do some of this deep breathing to get the blood flowing back to our brain.
Exactly.
And we can do that by focusing on things that we are grateful for in our life, or appreciation, or just, love. And so I really, that one resonated with me as well. And then the last thing that I think I heard you say, and maybe you can comment on this, it was the stress resilience and performance slide. Where
Yes.
you talked about how when we go into stressful situations, we probably are bringing some level of resilience that we just naturally have, and that over a period of time we can start declining because we're using it up. And so it sounds like what I heard you say is, if we practice some of these tools, we can help build capacity,
Right.
so that we can be in that stressful situation longer.
Yeah, and we experience the stressful situation differently, right? So instead of having that stressful situation take us down with fatigue, the stress physiology, we use the tools and we build up a resiliency, right? So we build up kind of a reservoir. So when the stress continues over a period of time, we've intentionally built up some strength that we can lean back on.
Perfect.
Yeah, and what's cool about HeartMath tools is that they don't take, it's not, I don't think they take a long time to actually see results.
Right.
They're tools that you can put into practice right away and see benefits from.
Well, I'm going to kind of scan through the chat box here, but I would invite anyone that has a question to unmute yourself, and by all means ask Jill. We've got about 10 minutes left on the call, so I'm going to just open it up. And again, anybody that has a question for Jill, please unmute yourself, introduce yourself, and go for it. And I'm going to just read through some of these chats. Okay, Suzanne, you asked about the book that Jill mentioned, the HeartMath Solution. So on your screen, you should see that right now. I just pulled this off of Amazon. So that really is a terrific resource. The other resource, of course, is HeartMath, the HeartMath Institute, and it's heartmath.org. And Jill, I'm going to take back my controls.
Oh, you bet.
I've got them. Because I just want to go to the HeartMath website. I think I pulled it up here. So here's the HeartMath website I wanted to share with you guys, that they've got just a ton of information and resources on here. Jill was talking about the ear thing, and I got one of these and I've been using it, and it's really quite amazing. It's kind of scary too, but it's pretty, they don't show a picture of it here. Yeah, this is, no. Well, anyway, it's.
Yeah, and if anyone would want to have a question, if they've got a question about that, feel free to, call me too, or email me. I'd be happy to answer any questions about that device. And what's cool about the device is that you get immediate feedback on what your heart is sending out. So you kind of train yourself, right, to see like, okay, if this is how I feel, my heart is probably in coherence. And then when you get in that difficult situation where you really need that, you can start your breathing up and your heart kind of remembers, like, okay, jump into coherence, here we go. So it's kind of like you train your heart and it will show up for you.
Well, another source that I wanted to point out to you is this. It's called the HeartMath Experience. It's found under their programs. And they are, during this time of COVID, they are offering this video training program at no charge. And I have been going through this, one session at a time. And it is fascinating. And I think that you might all be interested in taking a look at that as a potential resource. Anyone else have, looks like people are having to log off here. So I'm just gonna,
Can I?
go ahead.
Hi, I'm Karen, Jill, and I just want to say to you, I'm feeling very emotional about what you've described. And I knew of HeartMath years and years ago, but what you've done is anchor me into, and again, I haven't read the book, but you've helped me to anchor into the heart focused breathing. Of course, I do that, but then I never thought of the idea of adding, some kind of an appreciation or care for someone.
Good.
That came to me immediately, who that would be or what that would be. And some beautiful pictures, whatever. And so, and then of course the 8 to 10, didn't you say 8 to 10 feet or 7 to 8 feet or whatever? I've kind of, because I've had training, and healing, energy healing, I didn't really realize that it would, go out that far. And I anyway, you've offered, I didn't figure out the ear thing, but that's okay. But this is really anchoring for me, and I thank you. I'm so grateful.
Good.
Thank you. Oh,
Thank you so much, Karen.
And Jill, I have a quick question. Hi, Jill. Hi, Lisa.
Hi.
If I already have an M-Wave, can I use it with the app? Because it was one that would be used on the computer and all of that. Is there a way now to just use that with the new apps?
Do you have the ear device?
Yeah, it's got the clip. It's got the whole thing.
Yeah, I'd give it a shot. See if you can
Download the app or reach out to HeartMath, and I'm sure
Yeah.
they'd be able to.
Which app is it? Because I noticed, in the App Store, they have multiple apps.
Yeah.
I use the
Inner Balance.
The Inner Balance? Okay.
Inner Balance.
Okay.
So what you see on the screen here are just a few resources. Of course, HeartMath, that I just showed you their website, the HeartMath Experience, which is that training program, and then the Inner Balance is the app, and connected to the sensor.
Okay. Oh, yep, I see it. Thank you.
So Jill, thank you again. This really was a wonderful presentation. I think it is coming at a very critical time. I mean, we're all in this together, right? And I think we're all feeling a fair amount of stress in our lives because changes have come fast and furious. And so I just want to thank you for that. And I also want to say that, of course, the Crescendo Connect Conversations are one of the benefits for EI practitioners that they receive when they're certified through Crescendo. And other benefits include our members-only resource center, exclusive discounts to Crescendo Inc. sponsored training programs. And then just as a reminder, if there is anyone on our call that is making an EI connection to your practice and willing to share it with this community like Jill has, we would love to hear from you. So just please let me know. And again, I'm going to thank everybody for participating today. This was just great. If the recording worked, which I'm hopeful that it did, I will send that out to you hopefully later in the day just so that you have it. And We will figure out how to put it on the Crescendo website, so you'll have access to it there. And I'll also send out an evaluation so we can get some feedback. And we are hoping to do these programs more frequently. So Jill and I will stay on the line for another few minutes, but thank you again for joining us. We're really grateful to have all of you in our community. So thank you for
Thank
joining
you.
us. Take good care, everyone. Be safe.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, everyone.